Pop goes Thomas. The sun was shining brightly on the island of Sodor. It was a perfect day for the children's picnic in the Whispering Woods. At Knapford Station, the Fat Controller said to Thomas, "Will you take this lemonade to the school picnic?" "Yes, sir," peeped Thomas proudly. He had never delivered lemonade before. Thomas puffed out of the station with his truck full of lemonade bottles. On the way to the Whispering Woods, Thomas went over some bumpy track. "For fizzling for fireboxes!" he cried as he bounced over the bumps. Rattle, rattle, clink, clink went the bottles of lemonade in Thomas's truck. Suddenly, Thomas heard a loud noise come from close behind him. "Pop! Bust my buffers!" Thomas laughed. That noise was very funny. Did it come from this bumpy track? He didn't know that the bumpy ride had made the cork pop out of a bottle, spilling the lemonade. Soon, Thomas came to a junction. "I can get to the Whispering Woods faster on the track straight ahead," he puffed. "But the left track is very bumpy. If I take it, I might hear that funny noise again." So Thomas steamed onto the bumpy track. Pop, pop, pop! The silly sounds were back. Thomas sang as he puffed along. "Popping makes me smile and giggle when I puff on tracks that jiggle." Thomas saw Mr. Bubbles the clown at the bus stop. He was going to the school picnic too. He waved at Thomas. "Hello, Mr. Bubbles. Isn't this the funniest noise you've ever heard?" Thomas called as he chuffed past. In Thomas's truck, lots of corks were popping out of the lemonade bottles. Pop, pop, pop! One cork flew towards Mr. Bubbles and knocked his red clown nose into a drain. Mr. Bubbles was very upset, but Thomas still didn't know about the popping corks. He puffed away cheerfully. Thomas steamed down the bumpy track. Along the way, the lemonade bottles rattled and more corks popped out, spilling lemonade everywhere. At the bakery, Thomas saw the bakers carefully putting boxes of cakes on the platform. Emily was coming to collect the cakes for the picnic. Pop, pop, pop! "Isn't this the funniest noise you've ever heard?" Thomas laughed. As he puffed away, he didn't realize that the popping corks were flying right towards the bakers. "Oh! Ah!" cried the bakers as they were hit by the corks. They were so surprised that they dropped the boxes. All the cakes fell onto the ground and were spoiled. Near the Whispering Woods, Thomas stopped at a red signal. The bumpy track was causing more bottles to pop their corks and spill the lemonade. Pop, pop, pop! As the signalman went to change the light, a cork flew right into the signal box. The signalman was so surprised that he pulled the wrong lever. James was puffing along the track behind Thomas, carrying the children to the picnic. Just then, his track changed because the signalman had pulled the wrong lever. James was sent into a short siding, but he was going too fast to stop. "Flatten my funnel!" he cried, closing his eyes tight. Bang! James hit the buffers, but luckily no one was hurt. When Thomas arrived at the Whispering Woods, the Fat Controller was waiting on the platform. He was very cross. "Thomas, you have caused confusion and delay," boomed the Fat Controller. "Mr. Bubbles has lost his nose. The cakes are spoiled. James has bashed into the buffers, and the bottles in your truck have lost their corks. The lemonade is all gone." Before Thomas could answer, he heard a loud noise. Pop! Suddenly, the very last cork popped out of a lemonade bottle and sailed up in the air. It flew towards the Fat Controller and knocked his hat right off his head. Thomas gasped. Cinders and ashes. Those funny popping noises were from the corks. This is all my fault, he wished. Thomas felt terrible. He had ruined the picnic for the children. Thomas had an idea. I can put this right, sir, he puffed. But there wasn't much time. He pumped his pistons and raced back the way he had come. First, he steamed to the bakery. The bakers gave him more cakes for the picnic. They loaded the boxes onto Thomas's truck. Next, Thomas sped to Knapford Station to get more lemonade. As he waited for the crates to be loaded, he saw Mr. Bubbles on the platform. Look, Thomas! I bought a new red nose, said Mr. Bubbles. I'm sorry about the corks, peeped Thomas. May I take you to the picnic? What a splendid idea! Mr. Bubbles smiled. Thomas puffed back to the Whispering Woods. He was very careful not to bump the bottles in his truck this time. When he arrived at the picnic with the lemonade, cakes, and Mr. Bubbles, the children clapped and cheered with delight. Well done, Thomas, smiled the Fat Controller. You have saved the picnic. Thomas was so happy to be really useful to the children, he whistled, Peep, peep!